All right, time to talk some college football. Jimmy Ott along with Paul Stone here in the College Sports Rush YouTube channel brought to you by Bet Rivers. We got college football picks, analysis, information, angles every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here in College Sports Rush YouTube channel. We do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our friends over at the 10, Doug Kazarian, Greg Waddell, and Troy Macker do it on Wednesdays and Fridays on the 10 as they break down the Big Ten. Let's get right to it in the Big Ten, of all places. Let's go to Iowa City, Iowa. Oregon. The Ducks come into Iowa City as a 6-point favorite. 6-42. Boy, looking at some of the other scores, man, they are tough at home, man. This is just one of those tricky spots. Oregon got the win against Penn State. Heck, they were down to the last play at a fourth down in overtime up in Happy Valley. We saw what happened. We see what's happened to Penn State since. We saw Indiana, who has bulldozed everybody in Big Ten play, 6-0 straight up, 4-2 ATS, and winning by more than 31 points a game. The closest one by far was that trip to Iowa City. This is just a spot where I think that this is going to be a very, very tough game for Oregon. I, I think they're really good, but man, doesn't this thing look like? I mean, Oregon's going to be just happy to get out of here alive. I'll take 6 at home, Paul. I know that you're looking at that side as well.
Yeah, not to take anything away from Oregon's body of work to this point, but I think it's safe to say, maybe Oregon isn't one of the top, and I don't mean to be controversial. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I don't know that they're one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the nation after all. You spoke of the victory at Penn State back on September 27th, and that certainly looked like a huge double overtime victory at the time. And it certainly was a good one. But since then, we've now seen Penn State still mired in a 5-game losing streak. They fired their coach. And now you've got a Penn State team that's actually going to be getting more than 2 touchdowns against Indiana at home, which is insane. But this Oregon team, again, they beat Penn State a couple of weeks later. They lose at home at Austin Stadium to Indiana. Indiana, arguably the most impressive team in college football to this point, but Oregon lost at home to those guys 30-20, and nothing flukish about it at all. I mean, the Hoosiers clearly the better team on that day. So again, I think this is an Oregon team lacking a signature win to this point, and they're traveling to Iowa City to play an Iowa team that's kind of hard to put your hands around, so to speak. But as you mentioned, they led Indiana 13-10 early in the fourth quarter. That final Saturday in September at Kinnick Stadium, Indiana held on to defeat Iowa 20-15, but obviously had its hands full. They held that high-powered Indiana offense to 337 yards, far, far below its season average. In Iowa, you look at them and they don't do anything to wow you. There's not a whole lot of flash and dash. But if they can just use their trademark formula, which is, running the football, playing sound defensive football, sound technique, winning that turnover battle, it's going to be, like you said, if Oregon, I think from their perspective, if we can just come out of there with a victory, any type of victory, would be great. So I think this is a game that just, to me, it screams that it's going to be a 4-quarter game. It screams that it could go either way. And I think 6 points is a healthy amount of points here with an Iowa team that always plays tough defense. I as well like the Hawkeyes +6 over Oregon Saturday at Kinnick Stadium.
You saw a graphic, the stats graphic, and the one that jumps out at me the most on sort of that tail of the tape graphic is Iowa's points per game. 30 over 31 points a game. I mean, Lil Ferentz might still have a job if they were if that was the case right now. I think they put their over under and he had to get over like 26 points a game. It didn't happen that year. But the other thing is, Paul, you looking at some totals, and when you look at totals, you look at plays per game, snaps per game. That Iowa Indiana game, both teams were in the 60s in snaps per game. So that's low. And so they're going to shorten game. That lends itself to a tighter margin of victory as well. So both of us on the Hawkeyes, but Kirk Ferentz, huh? I mean, with all the contracts, a buddy of mine used to just a blast, the contract that Kirk Ferentz had, this 15, 20-year deal. Hadn't they gotten the most money out of a college football head coaching contract than anybody? The dean of all coaches, and certainly now the all-time winningest coach in the Big Ten. Log into your Bet Rivers app each week to opt into a 3-pack of college football profit boosts, including a live boost, a single game, a same game parlay boost, and a boost to use however you please. See the app or website for more details. Let's move on and go to the let's go to oh gosh, we had Indiana Penn State. I'm sorry. Now, Indiana 14 and a half and 49 right now at Penn State. Indiana is 6-0, as I said, 6-0 straight up in the Big Ten, 4-2 against the spread. And one of those was the game at Iowa, and the other one was a backdoor field goal by Michigan State by Millie Vahavich. How about Millie Vahavich, since he's been a part? Another cover for the backup quarterback who got the start on Saturday in Minneapolis, St. Paul against the Gophers. Anyway, get to this Big Ten game again. Penn State quarterback, Ethan Gruckmeyer, 119 yards a game, 0 TDs, and 3 interceptions in his 2 starts. Now, those are 2 tough defenses and 2 tough places to play at Iowa City against Iowa and at Columbus against Ohio State. Penn State still had a 1st and goal at the end to backdoor cover, and it didn't happen, but kind of methodically beaten. Yardage like 2-1 against Ohio State. They are playing with a little pride. This game was 17-14 at half in Columbus, Ohio State, and Penn State. Neither of us have a play on this one, Paul, but any thoughts on this Indiana big road favorite, 14 and a half at 49? And man, Indiana just, boy, when they get on top, they don't exhale. I mean, they really go for the jugular, man, and just destroy people. So big numbers are not a problem for them.
Yeah, man, they have been impressive. Some are projecting Indiana. We're going to have, as we record here on Tuesday, the 4th of November, some are projecting Indiana to be number 1 in tonight's first college football playoff rankings reveal. We'll find out whether it's the Hoosiers or Ohio State. Doesn't really matter a whole lot, I don't think, at this point in the season. But meanwhile, while Indiana might be the number 1 team in the first college football playoff poll of the year, you've got a Penn State team that started the season number 2 and has now lost 5 straight games, and at home is more than a 2-touchdown and change underdog. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card back in August. Penn State's obviously, what else could have gone wrong to this point? They fired their longtime head coach, James Franklin, their veteran quarterback, Drew Aller, out for the year due to injury. And now you've got, a Penn State team that you just got to wonder how much pride they have left. You indicated they played Ohio State tough in Columbus for 2 quarters this past weekend. You just wonder if they have gas in their tank. But for me, it would be Penn State or nothing. I don't think I'll be involved in this game because I do wonder if Penn State at some point is going to, kind of cash it in. But at the same time, if they show up and have a little left, I think they could make this a close game, even though I'm wildly impressed with Indiana. But it's a pass for me in all likelihood.
Hey, Paul, I brought up the 4 games that they covered, against Illinois 63-10, Oregon catching 7 30-20, UCLA 56, about 50, Maryland. They're covering those four games, but the margin of cover is by 30 points a game. Is it too late to look for an alt line on these type of things? Because Signetti, my man, he don't want to hear about it, man. I mean, your job is to stop us. He's not even close to being worried about running it up.
Yeah, I just can't imagine, if you took the most aggressive alt line since he took over at the beginning of the 2024 season, I can't imagine how much money you would have made to this point, because they have been, of course, you can't foretell those kind of things, foresee those kind of things, because it's just so unlikely. But you're right, he's ruthless. They keep the foot on the gas. They play for 60 minutes, and they got a chance to score. They will score regardless of the score. So, man, he has been a money-making machine at the betting window.
Most losses in the history of college football, Indiana is on top of the list. So Man, saying Daddy, don't bring up on running it up to him. He does not want to hear it. Players who place a qualifying same game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL or NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See the app and website for more details. So let's move along. And our next game that we're looking at is Missouri and Texas A&M. How about the Aggies? Undefeated, top five in the country. And both of these teams, they're 7-point favorites in 48, 7-48 on the road. And I got to say, probably a little cushion for the Aggies to get into the college football playoff. Actually, I would think definitely they've got a loss or two in them that they could still get there. Both teams are coming off of a bye. Well, one has been told how great they are. I mean, as the Aggie war hymn drowned it out, calling Baton Rouge in Tiger Stadium. I mean, they took over and they're excited as hell. I mean, this is the hype. Johnny Manziel. That Manziel season was outstanding. They finished in the top five with a bowl win against Oklahoma. So, and he captured the Heisman that year. But this, as far as they were not top five at this stage of the game with a chance to really to win it all. And they have the roster to do so. Coaching, we talk about the line of scrimmage. It all starts there with Elko, and man, they're really, really good. So one has been told how good they are. The other one's trying to figure out how did we lose that game in Nashville, where we basically doubled them in yardage and time of possession and everything else. How did we lose that game? Well, the easy thing was, well, they lost their starting quarterback during that game. Well, tell you what, the true freshman from Pennsylvania, Matt Zollers, he had more yards per attempt and he threw a touchdown, which Pribula did not do in that game in Nashville. He's not the runner that Pribula is, but he has way more arm talent than this. And I saw in that game in Nashville a guy that really wasn't that phased by coming in as in the moment. And he led them to basically, I think they needed 95. They went 94 as the last play ended inside the 1 yard line. I think he'll be more settled at home and just an extra week of reps with the number ones is just with the doctor order to maximize his preparation for his first start as well. This one was on the road. No, I wouldn't take it, but this is going to be a tough game for A&M, who's been told how great they are. Now they got a little rat poison in College Station, as Saban likes to talk about. So I'm taking a home dog in this one. Give me a full touchdown in Missouri against the Aggies.
Yeah, Missouri comes in. I mean, they have lost two out of their last three games. Fortunate to beat Auburn in double overtime. That certainly could have gone the other way. So they're close to a three-game losing streak. And now they lose, as you mentioned, their starting quarterback, Bo Pribula, to injury for the season. But you mentioned Matt Zollers, the true freshman from Pennsylvania. This is a guy who was highly recruited. He was the number one quarterback recruit in the state of Pennsylvania, which is a high school recruiting hotbed, a number one quarterback recruit again in that state, chose Missouri over the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Pitt, and many others. So he was a big time recruit. And like you, man, I was impressed with the way he came into the game. You usually expect a true freshman to show some jitters, to look out of place, but he really made a nice accounting of himself in a difficult situation on the road. And like you said, he's definitely, I think, he needs time to get up to speed with the game and the speed of SEC defenses and things like that. But he's not the runner, as you mentioned, as the former quarterback there, but he is certainly more of a passer than Pribula. He's just got the arm talent, and he's going to be interesting to watch. I think he could be a big time SEC quarterback. The thing that concerns me, and I like the spot too, like you're talking about rat poison, man. It's the second Saturday in November. To me, this is just kind of the time of the year that odd things can happen. Teams that seem to be on top can finally hit a bump in the road and maybe not quite play up to standard. And A&M seems to be kind of right for the picking. But this is a tough assignment. Even as impressed as I was with Matt Zollers, I'm just concerned about making your first collegiate start against a defense of this nature, a defense in Texas A&M that leads the nation in sacks with 32 sacks as a team. 9.5 of those by Cassius Howell. I think Mr. Howell's going to let his presence be known to Matt Zollers early and often. But at the same time, I'm not laying 7 on the road in Columbia. This is a hard pass for me, but one that I'll watch with great interest, especially to see how Zollers plays against the defense of the Aggies caliber.
All right, let's move along and go to the top 10 Big 12 showdown in Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech 10, 52.5 against undefeated BYU. BYU, Texas Tech's one loss. It was at Arizona State. They were outplayed for 3 quarters and scrambled their way back to the lead with just 2 minutes to go. And Sam Levitt, who's now out for the season, engineered a really impressive come from behind touchdown drive to beat Texas Tech in that one. That's their only loss. And so Texas Tech, I had Kansas State against them. That's a tough spot against an improving Kansas State team, a team that was in really good form. And they just methodically beat them by 3 touchdowns on the road in a tough place to play in Manhattan. This, by everybody's power ratings or eyeball account, Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12 this year. BYU is still undefeated. Now, a little bit of with smoke and mirrors, maybe so, but they can't have some of these shaky road performances like at Boulder and still come out with a winner, like Tucson and still come out with a win, and early against Ames where they dug themselves a 14-point deficit before they stormed back and beat Iowa State. That's not going to happen in Lubbock. So you talk about the undefeated team is catching double digits here. That's a little bit of a stinky line as well. I'm with you, Paul. I know you like the Red Raiders. I'm backing you as well.
Yeah, Texas Tech's only loss at Arizona State, 26-22. Certainly important to note, Will Hammond, the backup quarterback who's now out for the season, did play that game at quarterback for Texas Tech in place of their normal starter, Bayron Morton, who's now back, played last week in that victory over Kansas State. But, man, this is a big game in Lubbock, Texas. ESPN's College Game Day going to be on hand in Lubbock for the first time since way back in 2008. When Texas Tech scored on a final second touchdown pass from Graham Harrell to Michael Crabtree to defeat Texas 39-33 that Saturday night in a battle of top 10 teams. These are obviously two solid football teams meeting Saturday in Lubbock in BYU and Texas Tech. Got to be really impressed with the play of BYU's true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, just with his overall play, his physicality. He apologized a couple of games back in a post-game press conference for sliding. He said that was a wuss move. He was embarrassing himself for sliding. He said he's not a slider. He said he likes to initiate the contact, and he's a pleasure to watch. And he's just seamlessly filled the void at quarterback that was created when their expected starter Jake Retzloff left during the summer rather than face a multi-game suspension for violating the school's honor code. But, man, Bachmeier has come in. He's registered over 2,100 yards in total offense, more than almost 1,700 rather through the air, 408 on the ground. He's accounted for 20 touchdowns, passed for 11 of those, and run for the 9 others. So just a dual-purpose quarterback and just again, a fun guy to watch. But as much as I like BYU's team, man, I just like Texas Tech's better. And I think their A game is superior to BYU's. You kind of mentioned the fact BYU obviously undefeated. They've earned the recognition they're getting this season, but it does kind of seem like they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. The playoff rankings, the first of the season is going to come out tonight, Tuesday night the 4th. BYU probably going to be ranked ahead of Texas Tech in those rankings. I think that will give the Red Raiders even more fuel for the fire. And the Red Raiders, again, getting some key players back. Baron Morton, who had missed the previous 2 games due to an ankle injury, he returned in that victory at Kansas State, the 43-20 win over the Wildcats this past weekend, played well. And this guy who was back didn't get nearly the fanfare as Morton's return, but tight end Terrence Carter Jr., a huge part of Texas Tech's offense, 6'2", 248-pound tight end. He can split out wide, kind of a hybrid type guy, causes real matchup problems for most opposing defenses. So a big plus for Texas Tech to have Carter back on offense as well. We saw a Texas A game back in September when they went to Salt Lake City
Yeah.
and just dismantled Utah, beat them by several touchdowns, total domination on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I think we're going to get a big time effort from Texas Tech Saturday against BYU. It's going to be a raucous environment. I think Patrick Mahomes is even going to be there for whatever that's worth. That's probably worth half a point. But anyway, Tech is, and I think Patrick Mahomes had a losing conference record during his career there at Texas
He
Tech,
didn't have a great
which
offensive
is
line while he was
amazing. He
there.
didn't have
Yeah.
much help. It
Yeah.
wasn't due to his play. It was due to his buddies. But I kind of take a step back there, regress a little bit. But in any event, Tech's just more revved up. I think this is going to be a 2-touchdown or more victory. I think Texas Tech's going to roll BYU Saturday in Lubbock.
Yeah, a little bit better supporting cast, better overall roster to help out the quarterback than when Patrick Mahomes was there. We used to have a joke when teams would pile up yardage against Texas Tech when they had played no defense. We're like, no, that doesn't count. We have to throw that out in our statistics. I mean, it just doesn't count. So, and the other thing, Paul, is the splits in BYU, the altitude there. That home field advantage is a big deal. So you get them away from home. Man, they're lucky to beat that Arizona. Really lucky. I mean, Colorado, you seen them? I mean, that was a 50-50 game in Boulder. So I did like the way they responded, falling down early in Ames against Iowa State. That was impressive. But look what has happened to Iowa State as well. So on the road, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think Bachmar is, man, and look, and by the way, 47s don't slide. Okay. So that's, you wear 47, you're not sliding. I love how he has that. He maintains his old running back or fullback, number, but he also has limitations at this stage of his career. And I think this is not the team to where you got to come in with so. They'll probably spy on him, made him beat you with his legs, but it can be a suffocating defense for Texas Tech. So we'll see. Big number, but we're willing to lay it at home in Lubbock. Good job by Paul back in the summer to let us know. I thought they might be a year away. I thought the future was bright. I didn't know if the immediate season was this bright for Texas Tech, but that Salt Lake City performance, no, I became a believer in Texas Tech. Hopefully, got plus 300 for them to win the Big 12. All right, let's go to Alabama and LSU. I'll be in the stadium in Tuscaloosa this Saturday for Alabama and LSU. My dad, who was on the 1958 national championship team, their first game that year was against a new coach, Paul Bear Bryant. They played in Mobile that year. Well, there's a new coach in this game again. One of my dad's old players, Frank Wilson, who I've been knowing since his middle school days. He is family. Frank has taken over. Now, Frank had his head coaching stint at Texas San Antonio, was not great there, was dismissed after a few years, but he did take the Roadrunners to their first bowl game ever in their history and left a trailer with a pretty good roster as well. The one thing that he has done in an interim basis during the bye week is hustle all the ex-players. Seemed to be Kelly had a little bit of a policy that they had to go through a process. They just couldn't show up to work out or go watch practice. About 75 of them in the football ops center earlier this week, talking to the team and telling them about the pride. Pride is a theme in Louisiana right now when our grandstanding a-hole governor wants to try and do more than his fair share of humiliate the state as much as he possibly can. Was that real? Was that a bad Adam Sandler movie that we went through last week in Baton Rouge? Anyway, you're asking me who the hell is going to win in this game. I don't know. I know that LSU is going to have Frank connects with the kids. They are going to play hard. You're going to see that interim juice. But did LSU pick up some offensive linemen in the bye week to go into this game? Protection has been a major, major issue in this one. Ball 10 and 50. I don't know. I'm just going to the game and see what the hell happens.
Yeah, obviously Brian Kelly ousted there in Baton Rouge. And I think it's fair to say Brian Kelly probably not regarded as a player's coach. And the interim coach, Frank Wilson, as you mentioned, is a player's coach. I think he's loved by the guys. And we've probably talked about it on this program, but teams this season, college teams with interim coaches have kind of got that first game bump. So the first game coach by an interim coach, as Coach Wilson is this weekend have performed well on that interim coach. I don't know if it has any application to this game, but it's at least worth pointing out. LSU, though, obviously not coming in on a wave of momentum. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. You've got to be at least somewhat concerned about the team's mindset. Um, coming into this game against Alabama, it's been a season that, started, I think, with grand aspirations and legitimate aspirations of making the 12-team playoff, and those hopes are obviously gone. LSU's offense has struggled all season. The defense kind of carried the load the first half of the season, but in these last couple of games, as the offenses have gotten better against Vanderbilt and Texas A&M, those teams combined to score 80 points, record 825 yards of offense, 6.4 yards per play. So I don't know that bodes well facing an Alabama offense clicking on all cylinders behind their first-year starting quarterback, Ty Simpson. I'm not gonna. I don't want to lay double digits with Alabama, and like you said, this is kind of a hard one to figure. LSU might come out and play really inspired football, and they obviously have talented players. They're not lacking for those, so be an interesting watch to see what LSU brings to the table. But I'll be on the sideline as well.
Dad played on a national championship team. I'm an alum. My son's a student at Alabama. You figure the freaking this crap out. I mean, so we'll figure it out. All right, let's move along to South Bend and Notre Dame after dropping their first 2, and they were going to be favored the rest of their games, and they are still undefeated. I think they got to run the table, though, to make sure that they get into the playoff with those polls. I know that, Paul, their power rating is certainly higher than their ranking, and they're a good team. And those 2 losses now Miami takes a little bit of a ding after back-to-back losses there, but Texas A&M loss is not too damaging. 26 against Navy. How about Navy season this year? Navy was before the North Texas game Saturday. It was 7-0, but 0-6 ATS. So 0-6 against the spread, not counting the non-board team early in the season. So the Irish, we love their quarterback. We love their offense. They can give up some yards and some points at times. And it does seem like Navy always moves the ball against the Irish. In Horvath, he's definitely a guy that can do it. So maybe those points will be it'd be a lot of points. The other thing, Pitt's going to be watching this game. The Panthers are on a bye. They'll sit back with their popcorn with a bye as the Irish come into a noon Eastern kickoff next Saturday, and where that thing is going to probably be just under a touchdown. And that one, Pitt, by the way, since they brought up that Mitchell Heinzel, 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. So that game looms, and how much the Notre Dame peeking ahead a little bit to that next week's showdown in Pittsburgh. I like the points in this one. I'll take the points. As I said, the military schools are always a headache to prepare for on a 1-week basis, but with a little bit of distraction as well. Just seems the Navy just moves the ball in this one. I'll take the points because the points over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so in this matchup have proven to be profitable. Paul, you're looking more at the total, and as I alluded to, yeah, there should be a lot of yards, a lot of points in this one.
Yeah, just as a side note, you had mentioned Notre Dame's power rating. Somebody asked me last week or over the weekend about how many teams would be favored over Notre Dame on a neutral field as of right now. And I think the only 2 teams that would clear cut be favorites over Notre Dame on a neutral would be Indiana and Ohio State. I think some other opponents that would be pick or -1 one way or the other would be Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Oregon would all be around pick with Notre Dame, but they have certainly ascended up the power rating poll for whatever that's worth. The service academies, even when they're good and even when they're good defensively, their biggest matchup challenge can be facing a high-powered Power 4 offense, and especially a Power 4 offense that has a high-functioning passing game and a vast array of wide receivers, which Notre Dame certainly does. And what it comes down to, just in basic terms, is from an athletic standpoint, Navy's defensive backs athletically and speed-wise and technique wise, just have difficulty keeping up with those types of wide receivers in passing games. Notre Dame, even without Jaden Greathouse playing, he's missed, I think, about the last 4 or 5 games due to a bum hamstring. This is going to be an offense that's going to pose a grand challenge for Navy this week. This is the Navy defense that in their past 4 games, and I'll go over who those opponents were in just a minute, but in their last 4, Navy's given up 31.3 points per game, 463 yards per game. So over 31 points, 463 yards against their past 4 opponents. Those opponents being Air Force, Temple, Florida Atlantic, and North Texas. And not to knock those fine American Conference schools, and North Texas got a really good offense, but those offenses don't have much in common with Notre Dame's offense, and they've given up a lot of points and a lot of yardage to those teams. Notre Dame's offense ranks 8th nationally in scoring offense at 37.4 points per game, 4th in yards per play at 7.2 yards per play. They average 464 yards a game, and this is against the schedule currently ranked 13th toughest nationally by Jeff Sagrin. So they've been doing it against good people. The redshirt freshman quarterback, C.J. Carr, he's thrown for 2,057 yards in his first 8 starts as a collegian. And Carr averaging just under 10 yards an attempt, 9.8 yards per attempt. And this is the Navy defense, passing defense, that ranks 110th out of 136 in yards per attempt allowed. They give up 8.1 yards per attempt. Man, I think Notre Dame is going to throw the ball all over the yard against Navy. 4 of the past 6 meetings between these teams has gone over the total. In those 6 games, Notre Dame scored 34 or more in each of the past 6 meetings. They've averaged 43 points a game in those 6 games against Navy. Navy, I think if they can just give us 17 points, and as you mentioned, they are a difficult preparation for a team. Blake Horvath is a talented Veer quarterback. They do have quite a few weapons and a top level offense. So if they can give us 17 points here, I think we're going to get over this total of 56.5. I will add, as we record here on Tuesday, the 4th of November, we're 5 days, or I guess 4 days from game day. The weather forecast can change, but there is a chance of light snow Saturday night in South Bend. So keep an eye on that. I'd already kind of committed to this for the show, this over, but kind of maybe keep an eye on that before you put this in. But if that weather moves, sometimes these things tend to move further down the trail, so it might not really get there till Sunday or Monday. They can fluctuate wildly, but keep an eye on the weather forecast there in South Bend. But if we get decent weather and no snow, no precipitation, I certainly like Navy and Notre Dame over 56.5 Saturday.
Was doing our show just outside the campus at the Linebacker in South Bend, and yes, indeed, it was slow snowing that day as well. Like, what is going on? So, the Navy midshipmen will not wilt in some tough weather conditions. So, I'm just wondering how much, because the 2 things are working here. That was a lukewarm performance against Boston College last week, and then you got the big one against Pitt. Clearly, the biggest obstacle from running the table and getting to the college football playoff next week. So we'll see what happens with that one. So should be a lot of points in that one, hopefully. So, all right, we're going to be back on Thursday with our best bets of the week. These are the high profile games, the games with the ranked matchups and the high volume games that you're going to be watching, that you want a little action on as well. We'll be back Thursday with our best bets. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott here on the College Sports Rush YouTube channel, brought to you by Bet Rivers.